Here are 12 online reviews of the audiobook titled, The Circle. Written by Dave Eggers. Narrated by Dion Graham. 1. R-rated. Why can't these books be rated like movies are? Here I am listening to this book in the car with my kids and F-bombs start to drop. Seriously. I think books should be rated no matter what, but Audible and Amazon should provide this info. I would be requesting a refund if it hadn't been one of my free books, but I'm mad I wasted my book on this one. 2. Boring, future dependent on likes. The book is terrifying because I can see our society headed in this direction. I see teenagers constantly on their phones. Everything in their lives hinges on how many likes and followers they have on Snapchat, Instagram, or other apps. They don't really talk to each other. However, the book itself was extremely boring. Yes, when everything is dependent on likes, things are boring, but the author could have shown a bit more of what was going on in the lives of those trying to take down the circle. 3. Boring, predictable, dumb. I ended up mostly hate listening to this book. The first 2/3 were mostly unnecessary and the last third was predictable and the characters' motivations were unclear at best. Further, for a book with an omniscient female protagonist, Eggers clearly has no idea what women think about or want. May is about as dimensional as a piece of cardboard and only comes to life when interacting with men. Surprise! Do yourself a favor and read the instructions in your tampon box. They're more interesting and you can cross-reference with the French to actually learn something. 4. Offensively misogynistic. Nothing ever happens to the protagonist that isn't decided by a man. The lacking agency to make bull-headed points as delicate as a sledgehammer made me want to give up. After finishing it, I cannot decide which condescending, irrational, derogatory section was my least favorite. Could it perhaps be the boyfriend who stands for all good and right? Or is it the shock value, lacking character development sex scenes? Maybe it's that every man has a moral compass we should respect and our pretty protagonist is only a face with no intelligence or opinions that weren't shoved down her throat. Save your energy. Save your time. 5. Unnecessary vulgarity shortened my appetite. If you like annoying valley girls with trash mouths, you will love this book. After hearing 5 F-bombs in the first few chapters, I was over it. Maybe you'll give it a longer go before giving up on it and maybe the story gets great later on, but I don't think you need a bunch of abrasive language to try to develop the character. That shows major lack of creativity or thoughtfulness on the part of the author. Normally the book is way better than the movie, but hopefully the movie will tone down the profanity and will be easier to watch than hear. And I'm only in my 30s, I know I'm not alone. Not everybody wants to vicariously live through the mind of a crass college student. 6. Reader beware. I did not like this book at all. It drug on and on. The only reason I continued to listen was with the hope that there would be some kind of redeeming value or at least some kind of resolution. Then it just ended with the main character in the same sinking situation with no hope for rescue. I guess it could be thought-provoking but not enough to suffer through this book. Not to mention the horrible, unnecessary foul language and sexual content. You don't even come to like the main character that much. As the book dragged on I came to find her shallow and selfish. I assume she is being brainwashed but she didn't put up much of a fight. I didn't think that it was that well written either. 7. The most important dystopian novel of our time. This novel was very important. We slowly see May character being brainwashed by the Circle, which is essentially a cult. A cult where they believe that they are the future and that everything they do is good. They disregard the fact that privacy is sometimes necessary for own personal well-being. Spoiler alert, May is still committed today. Do you have the Circle even though it has left her friend Annie in a catatonic state? And her friend Mercer killed himself to avoid being pursued by the other circulars. Spoiler alert, one of the 3 wise men warns that the Circle will become a tyrannical force where everything is controlled through them. All the information, all bank and money transactions. The government is controlled by them by transparent government officials who disappear at the even question or criticize the Circle. Not everything needs to be known. Other dystopian novels use either religious or ideological dystopian archetypes. This one presents one for our modern age and an era where we have almost virtually no privacy. 8. Frighteningly Believable. The transformation of the Circle from helpful service, to tech conglomerate, to techno-fascism is both predictable and realistic. The inane obsession of the main character with views and likes, is eerie and skates the uncanny valley into the world we live in today. It's impossible to ignore the parallels to the real world, and profoundly uncomfortable to contemplate. I'm not sure if I loved the book or hated it. but cannot deny how powerfully its message resonates. 9. Scary real. Enthralling. At first, you think this is the greatest company ever. However, as privacy gives way to transparency, real quality in relationships gives way to preference for quantity of friends, performing for an audience instead of the way you normally would, and overall fakeness. The belief that information is a right, and that privacy is theft, has a severe cost, one which only a select few around the main character understand, and one which completely eludes her as she is drawn further and further into the circle. 10. A great modern novel. I've been a fan of Dave Eggers since his early work, so I assumed I would enjoy this novel. I'd come across it from hearing about the movie, which I didn't see before reading the book, and I was initially a little surprised to learn that Eggers was responsible. But the surprises kept coming. This is not just an enjoyable novel, but a tremendous one, taking the themes of today, privacy, the expectation of sharing, public service vs private life, and our inner worlds being turned over, piece by piece to corporations with what we hope are good intentions, and creating a so-close version of our world that is terrifying and exhilarating all at once. The book can feel claustrophobic and horrible at times, but it feels that way because it's clear how close we could be to the world of the circle. It's a deep-sea dive that threatens to crush you, but you'll be better for having taken the plunge. This is a staggering work of fiction that will sit with you, and take up residence in your brain long after its final chapter. 11. A gripping story with a slightly questionable end. I am not sure what I should have expected from the ending, but the entire book was gripping and I couldn't put it down. The idea of such a company isn't perhaps the most innovative, but that's exactly why it is so relatable and why it poses such deep questions about society today and our relationship with data privacy and governments and the self-centered obsession for approval from others. 12. Better than the movie. Great and scary plausible story of a tech company connecting the world via the internet. Viewed through the eyes of an employee, the story shows how ways of thinking can be influenced to the point that we willingly walk into the slaughterhouse. I was reminded of 1984 because of the attitude of inevitably. I loved this book because it never became a melodrama. No villains, just real people. The arguments of the pro-techies sound as plausible as the anti-techies. Great story. Thank you for watching. Please, do not forget to subscribe, like and share this video. Tune in for more online audiobooks reviews.